What's up, Bills fans? How are you? We're here. It's officially season over for everyone. Everybody's back to 0 and 0. Day after the Super Bowl. I definitely needed those 2 weeks, even though those 2 weeks sucked. Last weekend, first Bills Sunday without Bills football was it sucked. It really, really sucked. Yesterday, though, honestly, I was torn on who. I actually wasn't torn. I was going to root for Tampa Bay. I have two older relatives who live down in Florida, actually right outside of St. Petersburg. So I was like, I don't care if it's Brady. I'm rooting for those two old ladies to get to you know for them to enjoy it, and they got to enjoy it. And it was also good to see that team made to look human. The media was in the bag for them. I mean, I thought that they were going to win. Everybody felt like all KC had to do was show up, and apparently they thought the same thing because they played like it. They looked shocked at halftime. You saw the team crumbling. You have Matthew barking at Brady right up after giving a touchdown, and then Brady goes back at him. It turns into a big mess, and they just looked mentally defeated. And what it does is, you know, that sucks, man. I hope you're okay, Rick. I'm sorry about that, bro. I know how damaging that can be. I saw you put pictures up on Facebook. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Yeah, I wanted to do this video. I planned on doing this video. Um, Thankfully, it's live. It's Monday. It's relatively early. I did want to come on and apologize for the last video because I always say like I like to give myself a few hours before I do them to decompress. But it was really, really emotional. I said a lot of crazy stuff, namely about Andy Reid's son. Um, but apparently, I'm not going to apologize for that for what his other son went and did. And that I think that was a big distraction. That was a distraction. I think the media and you saw a lot of Bills fans reacting today. Oh, we need this, we need that. We reacted after the KC game. We need speed. Today it's pass rusher. I think we still need a little bit of both. I don't think we need to knee jerk and have immediacy bias. Yep, all those holding calls. Like I went back and I was thinking about the video I made, and I'm like, they were getting mugged. I was so glad that I said that in the video. I know what I watched. I don't need to see the all 22. Those receivers are being held all fucking game long, and then the game. And I always go back to the well, they're drug addicts, and that's the thing, Josh. They're drug addicts, and their daddy did a lot of covering for them over the years, particularly here in New Jersey, down South Jersey, in between AC and Philly. And it's unfortunate that you know, I don't know, is it the chickens come home to roost or something? Pigeons come home to roost, or what's the saying? But yeah, and there's a 5-year-old little girl who's fighting for her life, and it's terrible, man. It's terrible. Yeah, sticky coverage, K Beats. It's called holding. And I knew what I was so glad my eyes weren't deceiving me during the game. Like, how are they not getting open? And I you know how you have a tendency to watch the quarterback during the game, and I just started watching the coverage a little bit, and I just like there's Breland, there's Sneed, there's Matthew, there's Thornhill. They're just the little Jersey pulls. Yeah, Rick, they do, and everybody's made a lot of bold statements, releasing guys. And I think if you listen to Bean, you listen to McDermott, you're going to see some guys get released, but you're going to see guys get released all over the league that are going to be shocking. So if Mario Addison gets released, guys like that, I'm not going to be shocked. John Brown, kind of saw that coming. Injured all year, the money he makes, the age, the emergence of Gabe Davis. You think he's going to take another jump next year? You can't. I think there's a lot of obvious ones. Some people even speculated Jerry Hughes. That remains to be seen. He's a captain. He's pretty much got 1 year. I mean, it's 2 years, but the dead cap hit isn't this much this year anyway. But it's less the following year. So we'll see. If they find adequate people, you got to expect they're gonna. Even with that game last night, and there's a lot of hypocrisies in the game. You saw Patrick Mahomes the whole game. You know what he reminded me of? He reminded me of Josh Allen. Josh Allen the second half of the Houston playoff game last year. Josh Allen, what's up, Trapsdale? How you doing? Um, um, and the media, you saw the scrambling, the sandlot football, and a lot of that what Josh does. And there's certain people in the media, particularly Wright, Nick the douchebag Wright, who scolds Allen for that, but praises Mahomes for the same thing as being brilliant and amazing. Well, you saw he looked terrible. He looked dazed and confused. And I think a lot of what Tampa Bay did was once they got home on the quarterback, they were relentless in their pursuit. They didn't allow him a minute's rest, and they finished those two plays that Milano didn't finish and Epinesa didn't finish. Those were huge in the Bills game. And I think the Bills playing such a shitty football game, still scoring 24 points, having had chances to stay in, be in that game, it's still encouraging. And KC's not invincible. And the pedigree of the players that Tampa Bay defense rolled out there. I have to remind people, you have tons of second round picks, first round defense. You have Vita Vea, who's a first overall pick, not a first overall pick, top 15. Devin White's a top 5 pick, who's amazing. A lot of people are trying to compare him to Edmonds. I mean, you can't compare the pedigree there from a top 5 to a 18th overall pick. It's really, really hard. And just the whole team played bad. But the one thing that they did that really pissed me off looking back that the Bills defense didn't do was they hit Kelsey. They made sure to hit Kelsey. And the Bills linebackers, you know what? They're good players, but Levante David, Devin White, they're amazing. They're physical specimens. And I think the whole defense, the Bills defense, I think the front four needs a facelift. But Tremaine Edmonds' body type, he's long, he's tall. I honestly think he's an edge player. I think I want my linebackers a little shorter, built a little thicker in the legs, a little more stout, and getting a guy like, getting another big body. Because Bean was on WGR. He said he anticipates Starr being back. And then you have Oliver, Starr, and then Tyreek Hill pretty much said he couldn't believe how fast Justin Zimmer was running. I think Justin Zimmer gets a look. Harrison Phillips played better at the second half of the year. But they got to add somebody there. They can't bring back the group of Jefferson, Butler, and expect different results. They need to add some fresh young blood on the edge, in the middle, and even at linebacker. I think that if they get a linebacker that can play that style of football and has that athletic profile, they need to investigate it. But there was a lot of Bills overtones this whole week. Josh Allen getting fined. And that's another reason why it was very easy to root for Tampa Bay. You have Josh Allen, Deion Dawkins, John Feliciano getting fined. And, you see the multitude of, the suplex city on Diggs. You saw that, just the head club from Chris Jones. And it just got a little, yeah, they're old. And I think Jerry still has some juice. He pressures the quarterback a lot. But I don't think he's a 1A pass rusher. I don't think he ever was. I think he was more of a Robin than a Batman. And, it'll be interesting to see if Epinesa can take a jump, asking him to change his body composition, asking a rookie to have a virtual offseason. And how diligent this management group and this coaching staff is. I think that they'll get this kid up to snuff, and we'll see a better player next year. I just found it to be insane. Like looking back at the post game video, it's just all the things that happened in this game that kind of went back to the Bills game. That just the holding, and the reason Tampa Bay got those penalties was the size of the receivers they were getting called on. I mean, Mike Evans drew 2, Gronkowski drew another, and these are big players, like big, long, athletic players, limmy, lanky players. So there's going to be a lot more of them flying around than a Beasley, who was, my God, we now learn. I almost forgot this. Beasley playing on a broken leg. Jesus Christ. I mean, we have to give that man all the respect in the world. As a guy his size, a slot receiver, playing with a pretty much a broken leg. Tell me that guy's not a competitor. Tell me he doesn't want to win. That's just insane to me. But I just found that I saw a lot of when I was watching Mahomes last night, I'm like, that's like Allen in his rookie year, Allen in his second year. Some parts of him, when he plays, the sugar, they call it the sugar high Josh Allen. And for some reason, I know because he won a Super Bowl and stuff, but if you look at last year's Super Bowl with the 49ers and KC, the 49ers had that game in the bag and they blew it because Shanahan didn't run the ball, didn't get the clock moving. Even there was at one point where Andy Reid shit the bed last game. He called 2 timeouts basically for Tampa at the end of the first half and let them go down and score a touchdown because he decided he was going to call 2 timeouts. For what reason, I don't know. He thought he was going to get the ball back. And I think they fell in love with that whole scoring on 3 plays. And that's not going to happen all the time. Like they did it to the Bills 2 or 3 times, but there's going to be a lot of times defenses are going to make you earn your way downfield. And they just didn't look like they had the patience. They looked like they were trying to get it all back in one play, and it bit them on the ass. And they're still a really good team. They had a really, really bad night. They had an even worse night than the Bills had against them. And hopefully the Bills learned a lot from that. And I'm sure the rest of the league, KC, probably learned a lot about themselves, not having their 2 tackles. And that's another thing we'll talk about is the lines. The Bills really need to look at those lines offensively and defensively and choose to, make an investment. They haven't drafted an offensive lineman in the first round since Eric Wood. I think their highest offensive line picks have been Cody Ford and Deion Dawkins in the second round. So they really need to decide to make an investment there where it counts the most, or find more physical players in free agency because they need to be able to control the line of scrimmage better. And the running style of the backs needs to be a little bit more diverse. You saw, again, pedigree of player. Everybody, he's a waiver wire transfer or a pickup. He was kind of dumped by Jacksonville, but still, last night you see Leonard Fournette, why he was a top overall, top 4 pick, just athletic freak, big physical guy, runs people over, finishes runs, can punish a defense in the fourth quarter. Moss could be that, but when you're hurt, you're a rookie, the offensive line, forget that offensive line the Bills had this year was really makeshift all year. Outside of Deion Dawkins and Darrell Williams, the interior was all over the place. And Jake Santos puts, we need a couple of nasty guards and nasty edge rushers. I just think we need a different mentality on the line, a little bit more of a physical group. I mean, John Feliciano tweeted out last night, let's run the damn ball. I don't think it's running more. I think it's running more effectively when they decide to run. Being able to slow a game down, speed a game up, control the tempo of the game. And edge rushers, I just think they need a more freakish athlete out there. I don't know what form or shape that comes in. We'll see. But you have to get more production than, having a guy on your team lead the team with 5 sacks. That's not going to cut it. You need a guy who's going to, threaten double-digit sacks every year. And those guys are hard to find, but you do your due diligence. You can find them. You can find them. The Bills need to find their Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett was a $1 million pickup for Tampa Bay last year, was pretty much just out there. Nobody was looking at him except, Tampa Bay, changed defensive schemes with Bowles, took him and look, he ran the game last night. Him, Devin White ran the game. And we just don't have that type of dynamic edge rusher, and we don't have a guy, that can provide quality runs in terms of, we have guys that can occasionally give you the 25 to 30. We need a guy that's going to be able to take it, threaten to take it 50 every time he touches it. Or when he gets his chance. We saw a few times this year, the Bills, they had no patience with these kids. Zach Moss got benched in the 49er game after he fumbles coming out of his own end zone. Bills, after a fourth down stop, give a cheap touchdown after their defense worked hard to stop him there. And then in the playoff game, if Singletary catches that ball, he's got a first down and then some if he made Matthew miss, but he dropped it. So, with that position with the Bills now, it's no longer of, this is our offense is built around this. It's not. It's built around Josh Allen. And we have to have players that are going to perform in big spots. And if you don't perform in big spots, you don't get on the field. That's the mentality now. It's not, that's the standard. It's no longer, oh, I have no loyalty to anybody on offense sans Allen, Dawkins, Diggs, and Beasley. Everybody else is upgradable to me. Gabe Davis, because he's a rookie. Zach Moss, maybe he's better in his second year. But everybody else, you saw Knox with a little promise. But to be honest with you, everybody outside of the solid four that I named is upgradable. On defense, Milano makes a difference. Oliver needs to play better. Trey White, Jordan Poyer is a really, really good player. But even then, there's a lot of the defense they can be upgraded on. They definitely can be. They're the sum of all parts, master, except, maybe Poyer and White in some spots. Milano is very good at what he does, but they can get better in a lot of areas. You saw I've looked at this all the way back to Carolina. That defense likes veteran corners. This year, it was Josh Norman. Last year, I believe, they went and found, Kevin Johnson, a former first-round pick they got on the cheap. Maybe Patrick Peterson wants to win a Super Bowl. Can get him on the cheap. He's made his money. Long corner, still has, I think, still has a lot more gas left in the tank than a Josh Norman. You can get him as your third corner, rotate with maybe Dane Jackson, because you need a better athlete out there, a longer athlete. Again, pedigree of player. There's a reason a guy like that was drafted in the top 10. We love stories like Levi Wallace and such, but again, and occasionally you hit those gems. But that athletic profile, I think I just don't think he has the legs anymore, Travsdale. I just don't think he has the legs. I don't think he can carry a vert. And I just don't think Buffalo's for him. I want a guy with a little bit left I want a guy with something left in his legs and his body. How do we, that's an interesting, I think the Bills would have been a little bit better defending the dink and dunk, the one the Patriots employ. But it's tough. It's tough to say. I mean, the way the Chiefs handled the Bills in those two games, it's hard to take it away. They did it. They beat the Bills twice. I would like to think the Bills could have played better, but that's neither. I wish we could be talking about that today, man. I wish, but it's not the case. And like the video says, everybody's 0-0 right now. Everybody's 0-0, and we're right back to working hard and just humble, hungry approach. No fancy stuff. And you saw a lot of entitlement last night. I think you saw a lot of entitlement coming from KC. I think you saw, even from the quarterback's family, going on Twitter, pissing and moaning, blaming referees, tweeting at Giselle, saying, oh, look at all these penalties. Oh, the NFL, a lot of stuff. And I just, look at their bullying Mahomes because they put a picture of him looking sad on the sideline. I mean, is that soft? I mean, is that front running? I don't know, but I'm glad the Bills don't have anything to do with that stuff. I'm glad that's not coming out of the Bills camp. or any players on the Bills. I don't, because I don't like that stuff. These guys are perform. This is the highest level of performance in the whole sport, and they're pissing and moaning like it's a a Pee Wee League game, and oh, my kid can't feel bad because they lost. You have to treat them special. I mean, like, what? No, that's not the way it works. There's no shame in losing to Tom Brady, and there's no shame in losing to Bruce Arians. Look at the list of quarterbacks the guy's coached. Todd Bowles has been in this league forever, and I think it helps when you have 2 weeks to go to work on a team, and you can really study what they did and what they didn't do. Because let's be honest, there was a lot of the best game that KC has played in the last two and a half months was against the Bills. And outside of that, they looked woefully average, and they were held to, 3 field goals. And Andy Reid looked terrible. They didn't have any answers. They put their 2 backup tackles on an island. Now, Patrick Mahomes is great, but man, does that offensive line matter? It matters, because in the last 2 playoff games, that offensive line has let Josh Allen down in big spots. He was running for his life. He got hit a bunch. Second half of Houston, I'm not saying he played great, but in the KC game, he was harassed. And you need to upgrade there. You need better players. And again, I have no loyalties to anybody else except Allen, Diggs, Beasley, and Dawkins on the offense. Everybody else can get upgraded on. Tom Fitzgerald, brother, I gotta agree. We need a running back. We need better line play, and I think we need a different style of runner. Either it's a fast breakaway guy who will hit the hole and just be a threat to go the distance, or we need a hammer. But we need, if I have my guess of which one gets upgraded on, it's probably Singletary, because Moss is the newest addition, but it's early yet. Frazier Muse, it's nice to have continuity with Frazier, but part of me is wondering, fresh set of eyes. Well, I think they went to work on their. I've seen them be dominant, but they're just not dominant in the way we view dominant. Like, they're not a punishing defense. They're a fast, fly to the ball. They're the sum of all parts defense. A bend, don't break. Stiffen up in the red zone. Field goals, not touchdowns. So it's tough. It's tough to. I mean, I can't bitch about the defense, but I'm glad they have continuity. I'm glad they have a settled, and I'm sure they're going to work on themselves. I'm sure they're looking at themselves, their scheme, and saying, what can we do different? How can we improve? What type of players do we need that are better for this scheme? Like Edmonds. Edmonds is a linebacker, but I see just his body type looks like an edge player to me. He's long, he's lanky, he can close down one side of the field fast. I like my linebackers built a little shorter, a little stouter. 6'5" is a little tall for me at linebacker. I like a guy, 6.5 to 6'2.5, 6'3" at most. I want him to be able to run pretty well between high 230s to, high 240s. You got to be a special type of athlete to be that big and move, change of direction, stop, go. So I think they need to look at that. They really need to look at that. Are you in Germany, Tom? You a military man? That's pretty cool if you are, and if you're watching in Germany. But it is a bittersweet day, because that was the last football game, and I don't know if you guys felt the way that. Oh, cool. So we got Tom in Germany. It's awesome. Semper Fi, man. You have a team that, it was the first time we didn't see Bills football since September, and it was just really, really weird, and it felt empty. And that's a good thing, because for all, Tom's an older fan. There's some older fans here, but there's a lot of young guys. You guys got to really taste what it's like to have a good football team. For the first time being Bills fans, you got to taste what it was like to have a team that is ready to go, make deep runs into the playoffs. And that was just the beginning. What we saw this past year, that's just the beginning. Oh, nice. Yeah, Travsdale, like a 3-4 end. Like, but I just think as he gets older, because he's gonna turn 23 in May. I just think as he gets his body type is gonna change a little bit when he's 24, 25. You know, us older cats know how it is, man. When you guy's body comp changes, you know, when you the body you had at 20 isn't the body you're gonna have at 25 and 30. It changes, and I just think his body comp is gonna change, and I think he needs to I think they need to consider that. That's all I'm going to say. I know it for some people, it might create a hole, but sometimes, you know, maybe he can fill a hole that was previous on edge, and you can get a linebacker that maybe fits a little bit better. But again, those Devin White comparisons last night were way over the top. When you're comparing top 5 players, you know, it's very rare to see an inside linebacker taken that high. And you look at I didn't realize he had that great of a season. I looked at his numbers. That guy was amazing. You know, that kid is special. And you have to be bad to draft that high. I mean, you have to lose a lot of games to get a guy like that. Kind of like Mike Tomlin told to Chase Young, you got to lose 10 plus 11 games to get a guy like you. And you don't want to do that. You want the Bills to be able to find, you know, and you got to trust Bean. You got to trust Bean, and they've earned our trust. They've done everything that they said they were going to do. They've delivered everything except the Super Bowl. The franchise quarterback delivered, stability delivered, continuity, respectability delivered. You know, a smooth, tight run ship delivered. We can't sneeze at it. Limited cap space. I wouldn't look at the cap space right now, just from the simple fact, that we don't know what the number is. It's supposed to be. I'll be honest with you. I mean, for people who follow me on Instagram and Twitter, I hear a few things sometimes that are legit. I'm right here by NYC. I'm not saying that I know a lot of people. I know a couple of people, but I'm hearing it's between 181 to 185. You release Addison, you release John Brown. Lee Smith is probably going to retire. I don't know who you re-sign, but I would say you re-sign Milano before you re-sign Feliciano. If you're going to have to pick one, you release both Jefferson and Butler. That gives you $36 million in cap space to go out and do what you need to do. That's with, you know, you re-sign Milano. I think you can get that done. And I just think the way the Bills are structured right now, there's going to be a lot of guys who want to come to the Bills offensively and defensively and say, that's a program where I can just go focus on football, get my shit together, and go into a regular cap situation in 22 ready to go. Like, I'll be on a winning team, probably win its division, go to the playoffs, and just so they might take a vet minimum deal to just say, hey, I want to come win. Or you get a guy like Patrick Peterson. Hey, I've made my money. I want to come win. I want to come win. I want to come play with an organization that just cares nothing but winning, playing football, no BS, no distractions. Guy like J.J. Watt, for example, another example. So there's going to be guys like that. The Bills are going to get a free agent or two like that, and it's going to be different for a lot of the younger Bills fans. You'll see. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, and I think we have to, you know, they didn't anticipate on Starr not playing because they didn't anticipate on this. Who did? The whole situation that affected Oliver's play, that affected the linebackers' play, but they need also somebody opposite Starr. And those guys don't get to work together. I mean, it was all just new, a lot of new. You had Butler, Jefferson, Addison, Epinesa, just all thrown together. And we kind of got to see, you know how they say an offensive line has to gel? Well, a defensive line has to gel too. It's like the Bills' offensive line. The only stable parts were Williams and Dawkins. The center situation changed a couple of times. The guards were all over the place all season. except the second half of the season. I would say that Cody Ford is probably going to be one of the Bills' starting guards. If I would put my money that he's probably a starting guard. Sorry, Tom. I hope yeah, you can do both. I think you can do both because I don't think Watt cares about money. I think he wants to win. Now, you might have to pay a little for Milano, but I don't. I think Watt wants to win. He just wants to play football. But the guard situation, I liked what I saw from Butker. I liked what I saw. Is he a guarantee? No, but can you upgrade from him? Of course, you can. Can you upgrade from Feliciano? Yes. Can you upgrade from Morse? Yes. So across the board, you can get better. I'm again, don't have this blind loyalty to anybody sans Allen, Diggs, Beasley, and Dawkins. Everybody else can be upgraded upon. On defense, Trey White, Jordan Poyer, hides a stalwart, and Milano, hopefully re-signed. Everybody else right now, in my eyes, can get changed. If they lose their spot, if they get released, if they get traded, I'm not going to cry because it's not about that. The standard in Buffalo is we have to, there's certain Bills fans that just get an attachment to players. That's why I say jerseys are the worst investment in the world. Don't buy them until the guy's retired, on his way to being a Hall of Fame or a franchise great. The standard is different now. These guys raised it. It went from playoff caliber, championship caliber, this and that. It was first just trust the process, and then it went to playoff caliber, then championship caliber. Our special teams is solid. It was the best unit on the field in KC. Do I think a guy like Andre Roberts gets re-signed for a cheap deal? I think he gets brought back. I don't think they keep him, for anything less than a vet minimum. I don't think you do that. You could find a cheaper option. Our special teams, I feel, is really good. I feel Bojorquez took a step in the right direction this year. He had the one shank in Arizona that to me, in my opinion, cost them that game. Even though the Hail Murray was crazy, that shank, they gave up a cheap field goal, and that hurt in the end. Tyler Bass, after that Jets game, he was rock solid. Just go back to that post-game Jets video I did. I said, this kid's going to be a different kicker. And I know it sounds like I'm giving myself some head, but I just felt like when he did that flex and he finally hit those last two kicks and just calmed it down, he's like, you know what? I got this. I had my fuck-ups. This is easy. I've kicked balls my whole life. This is nothing. And he just put it right between the uprights. The coverage was solid. So I just think the special teams is going to be fine. We saw McKenzie have some return ability in that last Miami game. So what's up, Shady? So they're going to have to make decisions there. But I think they have fun decisions to make. They have a little bit of stress on them. But now that you have the quarterback, I think the meat and potatoes now is the lines. The defensive and offensive lines, they have to go to work on those two units. Again, on the defensive line, I don't have a loyalty to anybody. Anybody on that line can be upgraded on. On the offensive line, Deion Dawkins. Everybody else after him can be upgraded on. So have you throw whoever you want out there. You'd be justified in calling for them to be a Bill. Anybody. I know Feliciano is a fan favorite. There's some guys that, are fan favorites, but I want better. You see Tampa Bay, they got a guy like Ndamukong Suh who's a dick, but former second overall pick. Again, you had JPP, a freak athlete with the club hand. Shaq Barrett, who's had a James Harrison-like emergence out of nowhere, and Devin White, Sue, Vita Vey, who's ridiculous size, ridiculous movement skills for a guy that size. That was the pedigree of that line is amazing, and it's hard to try to find. But the Bills need to do their best. If the base of their defense is getting home with front four, they need to upgrade that. Saw a lot of defensive ends just not getting home this year. getting swallowed up on blocks. We saw the Bills had to blitz a lot of DBs to try to generate pass rush, try to shoot linebackers in through gaps. I mean, it was successful sometimes. I mean, Klein had that nice little run, forced a fumble on Wilson, recovered a fumble. So, I mean, it's worked, but at the end of the day, you still want those guys to be able to, play free, run, tackle, not offensive linemen getting on their bodies. And that's something Tampa Bay did. They let Levante David and Devon White play clean. No offensive lineman got loose on them yesterday. Those guys did whatever they wanted. They were running for fun out there. They got to chuck Kelsey, run over here, tackle Williams, chase down Mahomes. It was, and again, those are really good players. Really good players. Amazing. And I think the Bills need to really look and try to find something similar. There'll be something out there that we're not looking at as fans, but hopefully that they're fine. They're going to look for them. What's up, Neil? How you doing, man? I appreciate the people in the room. I know it's a Monday. It's a little early. It's not that happening of a live. There was really no Bills to talk about in terms of a game, but we have an off season to look forward to. I don't know what the combine's going to look like. Apparently, it's only going to be interviews. It's only going to be Zoom interviews with the team. So it's going to be like those speed dating Zoom interviews. And then the only time you're going to get to see the players, and I'm sure NFL Network and ESPN or ESPNU will have like all those videos and things up of them doing combine work. Am I a bit scared? We will morph. No, I'm not. I think we have too much stability. I think our ownership is not as meddling as those ownerships. I think our quarterback is light years different mentality than those quarterbacks. I think our head coach is way better than those McVay is an offensive guy. He's got good, he got his team to a Super Bowl, so I can't knock him. But I'm not. I think Josh Allen is just his pedigree is better than all of those quarterbacks by light years. Yeah, I think it's going to be the same, Neil. If they have the guys come out, there's not going to be a crowd. They'll just have a stage and maybe have them come out and hold the jersey up. Maybe it'll be slightly different. I didn't mind the guys being with their families and chilling. I didn't mind that last year. I mean, how they had it, I really didn't care. I like the whole crowd setup, and it's exciting. You see people. I miss that. I think a lot of us miss that, but as long as they do it, that's what I'm happy with. But the way they don't even know, but I guarantee the league will do this. The league will have a cap reveal show. They'll reveal what the cap is going to be for this year when the league year starts in March. And then they have that period where they can talk, agents can talk. They don't want those leaks, those free agency leaks. They want everybody to, they want that news cycle to be fresh. They don't want the big, free agency dump coming like, oh, we already know this guy's going to sign with this team before the league year. Like, for me, the Matthew Stafford trade, that was exciting. I'm not a fan of Matthew Stafford. I think he's a good player, but it seemed like he got a pass for all the losing in Detroit. And I didn't like that. He was a constituent of it. He's the quarterback. And it just seems like they think McVay is this wonderkind that can just lay hands and he'll heal Matthew Stafford of anything that's wrong or make him so much better. I mean, I think he's going to a better situation, don't get me wrong, with a better play caller. But how much more does he help them? Maybe a game or two? Will he lead them to a Super Bowl like Goff? I doubt it. I don't think he does. I don't think he gets them to a Super Bowl. But, I'm more worried about what the Bills are going to do. And I think they have to really hit on an impact player, no matter, I don't care what round it is. I don't care what round it is. And that's the one thing, like my friend Eric was hitting me up and he asked me, how is it that the Browns had a better, time against the Browns, the Chiefs had against the Chiefs and the Bills did. And I was like, look, the Browns don't have a good defense at all. but they have something the Bills do not have. And it's a big something. They have a player that you have to game plan for on offense. Like you, as an offense, you have to game plan against Myles Garrett. There's no way around that. You have to do it the whole week of the game. You have to do it pregame. You have to do it during the game. But their run game really didn't matter. But in terms of their defense, they have a player that can wreck your game. Look at the Super Bowl last year with KC. Nick Bosa was the MVP of that game for 3.5 quarters. And then Mahomes had a great last 6 minutes because the 49ers couldn't get a first down. Garoppolo couldn't hit Emmanuel Sanders, and that was it. Game over. Outside of that, in the Super Bowls, Mahomes hasn't played great. He won it, but Nick Bosa was amazing. And you see what that type of player, that type of defensive line. I mean, remember that was Nick Bosa. It was D Ford, I believe, and then you had Armstead and Buckner at the time. That's a wrecking house. In their second level, Fred Warner, Kwan Alexander at the time. They have, they roll out a kind of a similar type defense than that the Buccaneers did with their front seven. And okay, bingo. You want to figure out how to play with KC. There it is. And like you said, Neil, the Bills need to run. It's not even run the ball better. It's run the ball more effectively when you decide to run it. Hey, when we run the ball or when we play action, you're actually afraid. You're scared of what's going to happen. That makes the passing game more effective, gives the quarterback easier throws, more pitch and catch. What happened to John Brown? I just think he's a twitchy athlete. He's always had injuries here and there, going back to his days of Arizona. His healthiest year was the 19 year with the Bills. He played all 16 games. I think he was active for 15. He was inactive for the last game against the Jets. A lot of guys were. And, he just got passed over. You bring in Diggs. Now he's your number one. Gabe Davis, all of a sudden, he came, he had a really good year for a rookie, had some touchdowns, called back on penalties. I think he dropped one. So that kid's going to be good. We can't forget about the jump these guys. Yeah, I think he's going to be cut. There's no doubt about it. That's to me, that's not even news. I just think it's going to happen. Yeah, our tight ends, sure, throw it. I mean, I like both those players, man. So Poyer to me is a Pro Bowl safety, and Trey's a really good player. And your coverage is better when the offensive knows that you have a pass rush. Between Davis and Brown's money, it's definitely Davis, the money, the age. I think Davis is going like this. That kid's a competitor. He's a hard worker. He's the biggest receiver the Bills have. So he's a different dimension. He was hurt during that game too. Man, you had Beasley playing with a broke leg. You had Davis with a gimpy ankle. Maybe the oblique was still bothering Diggs. So it was just a perfect storm, man. With the holding, it really was. And they still threw up 24 points with the lack of production in the red zone. It's really frustrating. And shit, if you go back and watch, Tampa Bay scored on the same play the Bills scored on with Knox. They just did it to Gronk. That little hold, dump it to the tight end, and he runs to the corner of the end zone. Yep, same play. I was looking at this stat I wanted to throw up, and I had it. I saved it. And this is just part and parcel to affecting a quarterback. This is what you do. Mahomes distance traveled last night, scrambling around. This is including rush yards and scrambling around. This is the distance he traveled last night. 468 yards of scrambling, just scrambling. Tom Brady, 37. That's the difference in affecting quarterbacks and not affecting quarterbacks. He scrambled around. Next gen had it at 468. Now Josh Allen, it's like Josh Allen did a lot of that in the KC game. There was a lot of crazy scrambles. You know, tell me that wasn't Josh Allen like and scrambling, going around. But you know, Mahomes gets no criticism for it. He gets none. Yeah, 468 of scrambling yards, like scrambling around behind the line of scrimmage, scrambling up and down. Yeah, Steve. I mean, I know like there was certain points during the year I said I didn't like the short yardage run game the Bills had when they needed to get a yard. If it wasn't Allen, it was nobody. But just the physicality, being more effective. I don't like getting run over at all in the run game. I fucking hate it. I don't know what it is. I just don't like it. Maybe that's old school shit. Maybe it's like arcane or whatever. But it's not, it's a passing league, but you still see it's a physical league. You need to be physical. You need to be able to line up and move people. And if you don't, you get pounded on. And in the fourth quarter, man, you don't want to be there sometimes. Yeah, when Allen does it, it's negative, but Mahomes does it, it's brilliant. That's why I was like sitting there. I'm like, what is Nick Wright going to talk about now? Because what I'm watching is the same thing he criticizes at Josh Allen for, and Mahomes is doing it all game. Yeah, you have to make sure they're good players, though, man. And I was talking about Trey Edmonds earlier. I just think he's an edge player. I don't think he's a true middle linebacker. His body type to me does not read it. I like him as a player, and I think he could be a really good edge player. So if they could make him that would be awesome. But I just think his body comp is going to change as he gets older. Look at him. He's 6'5", 250 already. What's he going to be like when he's 25? You know, do you think, yeah. I think you got to add more beef, Neil, and you got to add more athleticism. I mean, that sounds like a hard, but they're gonna have to find a way. You're gonna have to find a way. Other teams can do it. They can do it too. He's a piece of shit, but he's a hypocrite. That just goes to show what a hypocrite he is. See, for him, the excuse today was the horrible game plan KC gave him and how he had to get blocked by 2 tackles. He couldn't even name the Bills' tackles. He couldn't name their offensive line. Like, the guy reads off a script. The guy is a fraud. You know why more fan media? Do you know why more fan media is getting popular? Do you know why? Because of assholes like him. Arrogant, pompous, communications degree, journalism degree, narcissists get jobs that they're nepotism, trust fund babies, ultimate fortunate sons. They get jobs. They talk down to you guys. They patronize you, treat you stupid on Twitter. They talk down to you and patronize you on their talk radio shows. And why are you going to wait on an hour online on a phone to talk to them on the air for 10 seconds? Why are you going to sit in front of TV so they can tell you over and over again what you watched with your own eyes? You don't need to listen to that. You go talk to your buddies about football. And that's what we're doing here in this room. You're basically a bunch of friends talking about the game. So this is why ESPN's dying. This is why nobody watches it anymore. What's up, Eric? How you doing, man? Yeah, I mean, I give Mahomes a lot of credit. He took a beating last night, man. That kid was getting hammered. I thought he got a concussion on that triple sandwich hit where he got folded and the headshot. I mean, that was brutal. No, I don't. There's no need to, Steve. There's no need. Why are you gonna? Why do you need to? Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, a lot of these guys don't know a lot about sports. They get where they get by being able to say shit that creates the most, like, oh wow, they say all this, oh wow, I can't believe this talking head said this, or I can't believe, oh, did you see what this guy tweeted? It's all bandwidth bait. That's all it is. All they want to do is create traffic for their network, for their name, and it has no substance to it. It's whack. It's baseless. Like, half of these guys, I mean, we don't like them because their opinion about the Bills, but we watch the Bills all the time, so we know their opinion is bullshit. Like, they sound like guys who never watched the team. Like they talk and act like people who don't watch the team. Let me ask you guys a question. How many times have you seen like Pro Football Network or Pro Football Talk or one of these, major networks, sports network, Twitter? They'll put up a picture of a guy like, oh, team A signs player B, and the picture of the player is the totally wrong picture. It's not even it's the same team, but the picture is wrong. How many times have you guys seen that? I know I've seen it a lot. Do you know why that happens? Because these guys who do all the talking on TV do none of the work. They do none of the research. They have all their lackey interns do it for them. And these people aren't even sports fans. They're kids and friends of people in high places, kids that get these jobs. Do you know why there's not minorities in coaching? Do you know why? Do you know why there's not more minority head coaches? Do you know why? Because of Andy Reid's sons. They're nepotism babies. Garrett was the assistant strength and conditioning coach, and the kid, his other son, who is put a 5-year-old girl in a coma, is the linebacker coach. How the fuck is that kid a linebacker coach? He was a goddamn heroin addict who never played D1 football in his life. You know what his ultimate trump card is? Being Andy Reid's son. Brian Schottenheimer, who's a horrible coach. How many chances has he had to be in? He was an offensive coordinator at a high school in Georgia 2 years ago. Last year, he was calling plays for Russell Wilson. That's why. It's nepotism. It's a friends with benefits club, and it's a nepotism club. That's what it is. It's who you know, whose ass you kissed, who likes you, who doesn't like you, who you related to. That's what it is. Yeah, Los, I want him too, man. I think he's a kid that can go like this. And you know how he got injured? Tell me this isn't process. He's like, they didn't have enough DBs because there was injuries. So John Ross, former top 10 pick, 40-yard dash darling, goes and plays scout team DB for the offense, even though he knows he's not going to play that week, and he gets injured. Yeah, we're not in that club, dude. Just like George Carlin says, it's a big club, and you ain't in it. You ain't in the big club. Yeah, Don Shula's son. Yeah, it's like BKFC. Nah, I don't watch that. I know. Oh, is it the bare knuckle fighting? I saw Paige Van Zandt got beat up during that. I watched it a couple of times. I watch boxing. I like high level competitive combat sports. I don't really watch the backyard brawl type of stuff. I mean, especially the bare knuckle stuff. I mean, getting hit, man, with bare knuckle, that's pretty barbaric. I mean, boxing is barbaric. Mixed martial arts is barbaric. But it's just something like I don't really care for the bare knuckle stuff. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. I mean, there are a lot of good guys. They like the team. They're fans. They're passionate. I don't know those guys really well. Dan's been nice to me. Dan's a nice guy. I don't know the Rico guy. I'll just say this. There's been a few times I've interacted with a few of them back in the day, and a lot of times these guys, they have these fan channels, and they have a lot of followers on Twitter, and they have big followings on Facebook and stuff. They tend to have this hierarchical mindset about fandom, and they seem to like act like they're better and bigger, and their fandom is bigger than the average Bills fan. It's somehow more. There's somehow more weight that's carried with their fandom, and I don't like that. We're all fans of this team. We all love this team passionately. We all live and die with this team, and my fandom is no better than yours, no less than, you know what I mean, or yours is just as important as mine. So we all feel like shit when this team loses, and we all feel like high as kites when they win. My opinion's no better than yours. And no less than yours. That's the way I look at it. I mean, I've been wrong so many times. I can't count. I thought KC was gonna roll yesterday, and they got bitch smacked. I've been wrong about players all the time. it happens. But I've been right about a few too. It's fun when you're right. It really is. Ertz, you want to know the tight end I like, guys? Go look him up. Go watch him move around a little bit. Played against the Bills last year. I think you know the term McDermott likes to use with one ray ahead of him. Like Los brought up John Ross. I think John Ross has all the ability in the world. He's just in a bad situation. I think nope. I will go watch this guy play. He's played in two very pass-heavy offenses. He was a wide receiver in college, and he's a guy that you're not going to have to pay. In my opinion, you're not going to have to pay a lot of money for. Let me get him up on my screen right now, and then I'll let you know his name. Maybe you'll look at me cross-eyed when I mention his name. But I love the size, and I just think the ability can go up. Dan Arnold from Arizona. He's young. He's 6'6", 240, 250, and he runs like a wide receiver. He runs routes like a wide receiver. He sets up safeties and linebackers beautifully. I like him. I like the way he goes up and gets it. I think he's different. And, I mean, he just hasn't had, Arizona's not a very tight end friendly offense. Let's put it this way. He's played in 31 games. He's only started 7 games. He's got 51 catches for 715 yards. So he averages 14 yards, 7 touchdowns. And he's got a 60, and very limited with New Orleans. And his biggest run was this past year in Arizona. He got 30, he had 41 targets, 31 catches, so he had 68% catch rate, 438, 4 touchdowns. So he didn't get a lot. I like him. Like, I don't like those big splash guys. Like, I like a guy like this that's going to go like this, under the radar, is going to come in, not entitled. But I'm not saying O.J. Howard's not talented. If the Bills can get him and get him rolling, I would not be upset about him. Dude, it was Jake. It was the exact same game plan. It was cover 2 high. It was cover 2 high. We're not going to get killed by Tyreek. We're going to make Tampa. We're going to make them dink and dunk, and we're going to get home with our front 4. But what does Tampa have? Tampa has a bigger, more physical defensive line, more explosive edge rushers, and their linebacker profile is a little bit higher than the Bills, I would say. Matt Milano, he's a converted safety linebacker. He's put on muscle. He's played amazingly in the NFL. But you got Levante David, former second-round pick, and you have a top 5 pick in Devin White, who's a physical specimen. You know what's funny? I liked him, Eric, back in the day, but he just never produces. He's always hurt. I think he had one good year. And I used to I remember he played at Rice, and I was kind of high on him when the 49ers got him, but he just never made that jump. Somebody asked me, do I like him? Yeah, of course, Neil. I love that shit. I love it. I watch as much of it as I can. I just don't do the videos anymore. Work and stuff just didn't allow it. My first passion was always boxing when I was a kid, and then I became a Bills fan when I was in my 9 years old, and then here I am today. But boxing just doesn't have the star power anymore. I can name you 10 guys that are amazing boxers. Maybe half of you guys know them, because there's no. I mean, I didn't realize I became a fan of boxing in the golden age. Like, when you were a good fighter, you wanted to fight the other good fighters. Now it's a 5-year contract dispute before you get in the ring. Like, who wants to wait around 5 years before you watch 2 of the best guys in the world? Tom, do I think MMA is corrupt? Oh God. Let me tell you something like this. Anytime you have 2 people who are going to get into a boxing or a fighting arena and they're going to fight, there's a lot of, I came up in the boxing gyms of Jersey City. I'll just tell you this. I knew there was guys when I became a teenager. This was shocking to me, because I never understood how are you going to go into a competitive environment where you're going to get hurt, or basically allow yourself to get hurt, and you're going to dive. And then take an L because you're going to get money in the back door. Like, that mentality to me, but I've known guys that have taken professional fights who knew they were going to dive. I've known that. I know that for a fact. And I just don't understand how that mentality. Like, imagine if you guys knew that a football player that played for the Bills took a shit on purpose so that they would influence the game. Like, that's devastating, man. Let alone in a one-on-one sport where you can definitely dictate the outcome. But it's corrupt as fuck. And there's been fighting sports throughout history. I mean, so I think that anytime we have a natural aggression in us as people. It's why there's a bunch of guys in this room talking about a sport where there's big guys who run on the field in pads and hit each other and run at each other, because it's a collision sport and we like that stuff. And that's what we are. That's what we have in us. It's fine. We're just men who enjoy, blunt force trauma. That doesn't make us, toxic masculinity or anything like that. I don't ever let anybody try to weed that out of you, because that's who we are. We like that stuff. I think it's healthy. Dank, I also might have called the league. You got to believe they called the league, and you got to believe Tampa Bay was on the league. Again, when you have that 2-week lull, a lot of things can happen. The week goes by quick, but when you have the 2 weeks, and you got to remember, it wasn't a regular Super Bowl week as we know it. Both teams, I mean, Tampa Bay was at home. They don't have to fly. First time that ever happens. The only team that has to fly is KC. So they have all the time in the world. The preparation is different. They're not doing the big media day with all this crazy shit going on. You have all these, just it attracts the weirdest people, the weirdest media. There was none of that. And the guys just got to sit in their facility, do the Zooms. So you have all the time in the world to call the league and bitch and moan about this or that, say holding, this, that. There was this going on. Oh, did you see that Bills game where they were mugging Diggs? Why do you think Diggs went nuts at the end of the game? Because he was frustrated. It was being held all fucking game. That's why he went after, I think it was Breland. Not to mention he got suplex citied by him early in the game, and he had to basically beg for a flag. What DN do you go for in free agency? The defensive end that I looked at and I like, again, I'm looking at guys that still have this. I don't like if somebody mentions, for example, if somebody mentions Jadeveon Clowney to me, I'm going to puke in my mouth. How many more chances does this guy need? How many more? The guy's not a pass rusher. He's an athletic freak who looks like Tarzan, occasionally has a good game, and everybody goes, oh, wow. Then he gets injured. He's never had a double-digit sack season in his career. The guy I'm going to mention just had his first, the quietest 10-sack season of his in the NFL. And he plays with a shit team, and, that's pretty much why he's not going to get any pub. But I think, I like his size, 6'4", 263. Let's see what he does. Forced 3 fumbles, 10 sacks. He got injured last year, but the year before that, he had 7.5 sacks. So you can go look him up a little bit if you want after this. Romeo Okwara. That's the guy I like. You're welcome, Tom. I'm always going to be honest. I mean, I love combat sports. I love football, but Jones he got caught hitting a guy in the face, because it's like the league had to look at that and be like, we let these guys go WWE out there, didn't throw a flag. Now all of a sudden you had these long, lanky guys running down the field, falling all over with Evans and Gronk. They started throwing flags, and a couple of those flags, one was on Matthew. I forget the other corner that got hit with the call on the left side. At the drive at the end of the first half that Tampa scored a touchdown on. But, the Bills don't have a player like Mike Evans, and, Gronk is, we know Gronk well, killing the Bills all those years. So, yeah. And if you watch that game, and there was another reason everybody knows Travis Kelce's a good player, but you know what, in terms of and when you're talking about those two tight ends in particular, talking about top 5 all time, Gronk is the best tight end I've ever seen. And reason being, watch Gronk block, watch Kelsey block. They're light years apart. Light years. Gronk is the equivalent of having an extra offensive lineman on the field all the time, and basically a guy who can be tight end, wide receiver, Y, whatever. Amazing player. Amazing player. How much did I enjoy the shit talk between the two teams on the field? I thought it was, yeah. I mean, I don't know what Matthew was doing at the end of the first half where he was jawing at Brady, and then Brady goes back at him, and then he sends out that tweet like Brady might have said something to him like that was shocking. Like, dude, you're on a field with a bunch of jocks, and you say some crazy shit, and you get some crazy shit said back to you, and you're shocked, and you want to send out a tweet. Don't send out tweets. Are bitch made, man. Let's leave that shit on the field. And they're salty that they lost. Yeah, that was great. I didn't know that he had done that in the previous game, but that's a former Bills son, Antoine Winfield. Got drafted by the Bills in the back in 2000 and not 2000, 1998. Never won a Super Bowl. Played a long time with the Bills and the Vikings. Could never get there. And his son, his first year, his rookie year, wins one. So you gotta be happy for some former Bills ties there. And that was that's crazy how the NFL is. Crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think you have to think not just under the radar, because everybody wants to go for the big name, right? Everybody wants they bring up a tight end. Who's the first tight end they're going to bring up? They're going to bring up, oh, what if Ertz gets cut, or what if the Titans tight end, Juice Smith? They're going to bring up the bigger name guys, and that's easy to do. But thinking like a GM, they tend to try to go a little deeper. Like, this guy is already a good player. He's not going to cost a ton of money. He hasn't gotten a lot of playing time. He wasn't in a tight end friendly offense, and he's gotten better the more he's played, and we still think he can grow and get even better. Why don't we get this guy for less money? Not to say that those other guys aren't good players, because Zach Ertz is a good player. He's a Pro Bowler. He's been to a Super Bowl and played at a high level for a long time. Hunter Henry's another example. Eric, thank you. That's another default setting. People are going to go. I tend to look for a guy that's going to, still allow for Knox to grow, because I think Knox turned a little bit of a corner last year, and I think he can go up another level. I think he can get better. But the CB2, I like Dane Jackson. Levi Wallace is still a competitor, but if they bring in a veteran like Patrick Peterson, I think that's huge. And I think he's another guy, high-end player, still productive in this league. Still I think has some game in his body. Even he's 30, he's a lot younger than Norman. He's bigger than Norman. He's longer than Norman, and he was a top 5 pick. He's the type of guy the Bills could get now because of where they are, at their status in the league, their hierarchical status. They're in that top 5. Think about that, guys. We come into this room now, we're talking about a top 5 team in this league. We don't talk about the also-ran Bills anymore, the 7-9 Bills. Hope we get to 9-7, 10-6, and make the playoff. No, this team, the trajectory. This is what we talk about now. Yeah, it did, and both position changed. That's a good point Steve brought up. You look at guys that took so long with tight ends are weird. Darren Waller was a converted wide receiver. He went through all the offseason trouble, and now look at him. And that's why I saw Dan Arnold, the body type, the movement. He played wide receiver in small school, and you've seen him get better. And you see Darren Waller, he's 29 years old. He's not young. And you look at Knox, who was a converted quarterback. His basically last year was his first time, first full season playing tight end in the NFL. And you're still seeing him in that transition. It's not easy. Oh, definitely, Eric. Both of them. Both of them. It only makes sense, man. It only makes sense. It really does. Just the money, the return on the investment is not there to keep either one of those guys, man. It just really isn't. And former Bill, Logan Thomas, look at the season he had. It's such a good, quiet, good season he had. Looked like a natural catching the ball, was a red zone threat, played big, we all remember him playing quarterback. He was going to start in Arizona, and then he wasn't doing what he was supposed to. Coach who just won the Super Bowl, Bruce Arians, benched him and started Ryan Lindley. And we all know how hard Ryan Lindley was. The equivalent of Nathan Peterman. If you go on YouTube for shits and giggles and watch Ryan Lindley play quarterback, you know what I mean. He was terrible. But that's the thing, is he's 29 years old. Tight end is a really weird position. I'm not saying that, Knox is going to make that, because that's hard. But I think he's a hard worker. I think he fits the Bills' DNA. And I see a lot of that same athletic ability in Dan Arnold, like being able to run gazelle-like, go up and catch passes, be physical, use his body, be a size mismatch. And those are some of the things I heard being talked about, is our tight end wasn't feared. Our running game wasn't effective when it needed to be. So you got to believe they're going to go to work on those two areas. That's what we talk about now. You're telling me we're not in that echelon? We definitely are. We're in that echelon of the hierarchy of the NFL. I mean, we finished almost the whole half of the year in the power rankings, every one in the top 5, top 8. A lot of times during the end of the year where they were number 1. And I just believe that this team is still going this way. I don't think we've seen their best yet. Tell me their most complete football game last year. Denver, maybe? The last game of the year. I think that their best football is still coming. Yeah, those Dick Duran rants, K, man. Because it pained me. Like, it pained all of us to watch where this team was. Russ, that Carney Barker, that he was such a used car salesman with this brand has been tarnished. Yeah, it was tarnished, and it has your stains all over it. It had your stain all over it. That's what made me sick. Tom, you got to let me know about the background. I know it's stupid, but the background is broadcasting in Iraq for the last 20 years. Nah, it's okay, man. It's okay. But it's kind of a delicious irony that you brought that up, but no, it feels like it though. Arnold is a good call. Croft is gone. The other rookie has. Oh, you know what? I always forget about Tommy Sweeney. I think he still could be a player for them, man. Remember, we saw little glimpses of that game in the Jets, and he didn't get a lot of playing time. Caught a couple of balls, I think, week 2 against the Giants last year, and then he ended up playing again finally against the Jets. I just think that kid is going to be back. I think they'll get him, whatever his issue is figured out. They see the team is really structured well with all their protocols and things, and there's not going to be any of those issues. I think Starr will be back, he'll be back, and hopefully they'll have them ready to go. It's going to be, yes, Eric, they're picking 30, man. But I like that. Do you know why I like that? Because when you're at 30, you get one of these teams that want to get a guy, trade back, give us something this year, give us something next year, and that's how you start accumulating that ammo. You start, building the warehouse of, hey, we got an extra 3 next year, an extra 4 this year, an extra 2 or something. You get those little extras, and you're like, go back, oh wow, we got an extra 2 this year, we got an extra 3 this. That's what I like, because that's where you hit on guys. The more draft ammo you have, the better. And if you hit on a guy, oh, we don't have to pay this guy now because we hit on this guy. And That's perfect. When you're drafting in the top 10, even if you don't need a quarterback, it's like you have to hit on that dude. If you bust on that dude, it is just a dick punch that just lasts forever. Yeah, I think he'll be all right. I just think that these guys are high level athletes. They're not built like me and you. They're at the young physical peak of their prime. These guys are monitored. They're watched. They're GPSed. When it's like these guys have procedures and do things with their body physically that the layperson just can't fathom. So I mean, if that's he's still a human though. So if that's the case, I hope he's well. God bless him. But if he's able to play, hopefully he can. He's a Jersey guy. Got to root for my Jersey guys. He's a Bill, and I hope he can come back and be a player. That's one less guy that the Bills have to worry about bringing in. And if maybe you can add an Arnold or somebody like that, you have a good group there, a diverse group. But it's going to get interesting. We're already starting. We saw our first big trade with Stafford. Wentz probably is going to be the next shoe to drop. Teams are going to start chasing quarterbacks. Do the Dolphins stay pat with Tua? Do they move? It's weird. The Jets are in a weird situation. The Pats they're like kind of in no man's land. They're not drafting high. Stafford did not want to go there, which is crazy, and that was made very, very public, which is delicious because we always had to hear about the Patriot way and how great it is and how they know things other people they knew things people didn't know because they were cheating. But we all saw, and I think that's why I like last night the most, because it put all that Patriot way bullshit to rest. We always knew, Bills fans who had to watch that team beat down the division, beat down the Bills for a year. It was the Brady way. Exactly. That's it. It was Tom. It was not Bill laying hands on anybody. No, it was that guy that they golden ticketed Willy Wonka's football factory back in 2000. That's what it was. Under the radar guard. I haven't gone that far. Speed weapon at free agency is John Ross. That's whew. Cornerback 2 right now is Patrick Peterson. I know he's the highest named guy, like most name guy, but I want a guy that's got elite traits, elite athletic traits, long, still has game in his body, who's hungry, maybe motivated, looking for a different challenge, change of scenery. I like a guy like that. He's a terrible draft record, terrible, not a very good free agency record either. Who wants to go there with that rigid system? That stiff, buttoned-up system. People don't like it. Like you hear Danny Amendola coming out and saying, well, it was always, former Patriot. Basically Gronk retired. He retired rather than play there. And he unretired to play with Tom, but not play there. What does that tell you? Brady's like, I'm leaving. I'm peacing out. There's this. I want to have fun and play football. He went, had fun, and won a Super Bowl. As a Tigers fan, Peters is great. He's a great player, Ryan, and he's got great traits, and I think he would be. They like veteran corners. I watched they brought in the first year they brought in EJ Gaines. They had the one they had Johnson was the nickel back, and they had the other guy, I think Thomas was the other cornerback that they had. They had a bunch of guys that were filling in, and the next year they brought in Phillip Gaines. Levi was on the practice squad. There was just they had like a little bit of a turnstile. They brought in the Levante David, who quit. You know what? He had a good year, played a little bit better, but I like Patrick Peterson better. Peterson better. They were going to trade him to Detroit. Who, Patrick Peterson? Yeah, Rhodes. He looked a little bit better with the Colts than he did his last couple of years with the Vikings. That's for sure. But I like Patrick Peterson. better for me. My own person. I just think he's a higher level player, a higher grade athlete. And all the pressure wouldn't be on him to be the number one. I think he would be perfect number two, rotational guy. Oh yeah, I think that they were going to trade, and he said no. I'll retire before I go there. No, I think they'll stick with a bar. It's hard to find a guy like that, man. It's so hard. I think they'll always like you'll have you know what Josh's backup will always be like? He'll be like the backup catcher who likes to catch the ace, who the ace likes to catch him. Think of Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux had a catcher. He had a young Javi Lopez. He only wanted Charlie O'Brien to catch him because he loved his location. He loved the way he called a game. He loved the way he set up batters. And the professor loved Charlie O'Brien. Charlie O'Brien hit 220 with like one home run and 8 RBIs. But still, like if Greg was pitching, that was his catcher. I remember with the Yankees, as a matter of fact, it was young Posada, Joe Girardi. David Cone wanted to throw to Girardi. He would not throw to Posada. I always think he'll be like that coach on the field, that extra set of eyes, a guy who just will be more of a help to Josh than like a guy like I secretly want to play, and I'm like that'll never happen, but still. Yeah, I think that's why they liked Peterman. They liked Peterman's mentality. They liked his, he had the team approach. He had like, I don't have a big ego here. I'm just here to help the team. I'll do whatever I can. I could see why they liked Peterman for those reasons, but the water was so dirty with Peterman because what happened against San Diego, what happened again in the opener in 18. So it was just like he was doomed. He was just such damaged goods in Bills fans' eyes. He could never. I just don't think he could ever mentally recover. Christian Wade. No, I just think never say never. Never say never. I think he's a Bills fan's favorite. Like he had one run in a preseason game. It's like there's very few stories like Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz scored 3 touchdowns against the Jets in the last preseason game, and everybody went nuts. Like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. He tears his ACL, doesn't play for that year. Comes back the next year, amazing player on the Giants, makes the team, I think he was like their second. Him and Hakeem Nicks were great together. Those stories are so rare. But you know what? Never say never. Never say never, Dougie. If he helps the Bills, I'll throw my hands up and say awesome. But the guy does have a second gear from hell. I mean, you ran away from pro, let's say, I don't say they're not NFL players, but a lot of those guys are cut, never to be heard from again. But it's tough. It's tough to evaluate. I always felt like a couple of those preseason games were such garbage. I always thought you needed to. You need 2 preseason games and that's it. You're done. You don't need any more. You need the second one. Like forget the first one. The 4th one's trash. You need the second one and the 3rd one. That's it. Get everybody out. That's it. You're done. Play a couple of halves. That's it. 2.5 weeks before the season starts to make sure guys are really fresh, ready to go. I don't like that bullshit. Because all we do, I don't know if they're going to play preseason games this year. I think they will. But you know what we do during those preseason games. What do? We sit there, cross our fingers, bite our bottom lip, close our eyes, and pray to God nobody gets hurt. They're not fun at all. They're fun and exciting in the sense we see the football team on the field in a football setting, wearing the uniform. Maybe we see some new toys, like, oh, look at this new play. And after that, it's like, fuck, get them off the field. This game doesn't matter. We don't want these guys hurt. It's just the way of it. So I hope to God that there's only a couple this year and that's it. But all right, guys, it's hour and 25 minutes. Thank you guys so much. Get a fast running back or a wide receiver. I think you get a multifaceted running back. I don't have one on my list right now or a name that I could throw at you. You guys probably have more names than I do at running back. I just have the wide receiver, tight end, a couple of defensive ends. I should be looking at offensive linemen, though. That's the important thing because it all starts there. As we saw, it all starts on the lines. Yeah, the draft is, yeah, like Eric said, the draft, drafting 30, being said, you're going to have to draft well. You're going to have to draft well. And I trust him. And I hope he hits on some guys because they're going to need to. They're going to need to hit on 2 or 3 players in this draft. They're going to have to hit big and have those guys contribute like that. But, hour and 25 minutes, guys, thank you so much for coming on. Even though there wasn't a Bills game yesterday for the last 2 weeks, it it sucks, but hopefully, we'll get something. Bills retain their whole staff. Dable back, Frazier back, most of the staff back. I think one of their outside linebacker coaches got a job somewhere, or a backup, like assistant linebacker coach. He got a job somewhere, but that's it. And continuity continues, good continuity for once, and we'll see what 21 brings. But as of right now, everybody's 0-0, and we'll hopefully, have a great offseason. I don't want to say they win the offseason until we know what the team looks like and how they're playing November, December. But I think all of us feel that this regime's got the right people, and they've proven it, and they've kept their promises to us, and they've delivered. And the quarterback is humble and hungry. His family's not tweeting, "Leave my kid alone" at the end of games, or his girlfriend's not tweeting at people saying, "Oh, boo-hoo." That's good, because I don't want any of that crap on the Bills. I don't like that. But love you all. Go Bills. Let's have a great offseason, guys. Can't wait to do some vids on some great off-season acquisitions and some awesome shit. Love you all. Bills Brothers for life.